Big Boss Jock Radio Show, episode 351. Continuing with the history, the outposts, and how the history goes. The foundation of the United States of America. Can you imagine? There's a multitude of U.S. DIA operators inside of this office that share the same DNA with me. A multitude of them. All the ones just mentioned. We have a family member in common. She was hijacked at an event, taken from her family, full-blooded, native from the zone, known as northern part of America. Oh yeah, North America, that's right. The territory of Dakota. A daughter, because I believe she had siblings. A daughter of Sitting Bull, the bow of Little Bighorn. The outcome is quite known. It was tragic for the natives. Taken was a young girl, 3 years old, known as Tulip Mockingbird, spelled with one L. Tulip Mockingbird. We share that family member in common. She's my great-grandmother. And she's many of theirs. Their great or either great-great-grandmother, depending on their bloodline. For most of them, for many, it's their grandmother. She was. After they took her, they changed her name. They had her wearing a mask, changing her face. Sometimes being a Caucasian, oftentimes known as Mary Cern, U.S. DIA operator. She's still native? Yeah, pasty face? She had a multitude of children. And this is where further deepened the divide, and on went the fight, the feud. She gave birth to family Clark children, along with a few family Hawkins children. I come from the Hawkins crime family. The ones in here, other than my mother, my three sisters, they're right here in the police department. They're allowed to do this to me. Wanda Angus, Shelly Angus, Hope Angus, Bonnie Angus, Anges. They're allowed to hold me a slave. All kinds of papers signed along the way. Had no idea I was signing a paper, put in a trance state. Tortured till I signed the page without knowing I signed the page. Signed away everything. They hold a multitude of assets through the having of shadow identities placed not upon them. They earn their placement at the U.S. DIA. They go along with the game. They don't admit anything. What people don't realize is it's a mental disorder. They take on the part of others, and they, for a moment, believe they're that part. They do it since they're a young child. Most usually since they're an infant. It says something that would be seen in a movie. They know about a show, The Three Faces of Eve, if they remember that. Though that's not based on what really happens. That's a cover, so that people don't clearly understand dissociative identity disorder. No, that doesn't occur because someone sees a corpse. It occurs because they experience early childhood sexual abuse. And this is what was discovered in the dungeons hundreds of years ago. And since existed, paraffin and gelatin masks have been being made. That means people walking around with faces other than their own. They take a different stride in their voice, a different tone. The only way to be able to tell it's them is stride, or most importantly, the eyes. but the listener can imagine when changed is the bone structure considerably, it's difficult to look at only the eye and make an identification. So they're able to go right into the crowd, same crowd as one, and then a moment later as another, and no one notices. This is what's going on in front of the public with their leadership. In the U.S. Congress, there's a multitude of daily mask wearers, including the president. The president is not genuine. What's seen on the screen is computer generated. The people are following a computer generated president. And what's actually tangible, real, is a man who puts on a costume, a face that peels off, wadding in the clothes, risers under the feet, dentures in the mouth, maybe stents in the eyes, opens them up more or closes them further, what's needed. Change a nose, maybe add some to the jaw or take some off. People begin to understand what's going on. About to lose their nation if they're named Yankee. They don't identify as a U.S. citizen. Just watch the press conference. The president was the president of the Yankee Empire, Don. At his side, in front of the Betsy Ross, the president of Poland. His name's Duda. President Duda. He received a lot name association. Don, he was oftentimes being chumped. Just the other part of the bunch. There was a clouding of the issue. The two separate entities that seem to be one. How can it be our country if there's two presidents present? Things cannot be described as we. There's them, and what is the others? The United States of America. Who was invited? The leadership of Poland. The president of Poland named Duda. When Don discusses the issues, he does so in a form which uses we. He pointed to his head and he said, we would figure it out. Well, who is that we? Him and his imaginary friend? He needs to figure out in his mind. And in his mind, he thinks as we. People, he isn't coming up with the words. It's the USDIA. They don't need him even at the location. They don't need to use the location. It's already in the computer. They can fabricate the whole event. The intonation, the facial gestures, move the person around, have them hop, jump, sit down, roll around, anything needed. The public's completely oblivious. And they have associated to our country instead of the United States of America. They're about to lose everything. Going back to the history. The outposts and how things go. Well, imagine that. There were outposts in the West in the late 1700s. Willow, Arizona, near Phoenix. Or is it in Phoenix these days? I believe so, where the post office is. 1793. That is at the beginning. They're at the foundation of the country, and there would have been found Hawkins. Oh, there's a story about an event. 21 natives were slain when they attempted to overtake the trading post. Oh, a day or two later. Maybe it was a day and a half later. In the evening. The owner of the store, I believe he's Zarin Hawkins. They all start with Z. Zenas, Zarin, Zarn, Zephi. They pass the name down generation to generation, such as they'll find out with the family clerk. Women named Will, Walt, Willie, they would go by. Will Walt is every other generation. Walt, also a name for a female. Every other generation they would pass them down, the names, to their daughters. And on went the story. If someone tries to investigate, they get caught up in the spin wheel and they don't know where to go. The names are confusing and they spin the mind. It was designed that way. That's how formed was the pyramid. It remains until today. Hasn't been discovered. Well, it has been. And you people are remaining ignorant to the fact, and I'm speaking right to you, listeners, the Kennedy assassination, unless the listener takes the time to process the information and understand what happened, these same people will stay in place. And what will occur is a loss of nation. They build an underground. That's where they'll be found. They don't plan on being held accountable. They're going to check out. First sign of trouble, move underground. Takes that moment, nothing more. And what will take place at the same while? Mandatory gun confiscation. Give up their guns. Knock and take. Every neighborhood. USDIA plans on taking 90% of the guns within the first few hours when declared is a crisis situation, which will lead to the breakup of the U.S. territory. Any who are ushered underground, at the entrance, mandatory, check in the gun. It'll be described that it will be returned one day. Ricochets, they can't walk around with guns down there. They're willing to give up their nation. They're going to be willing to give up their gun. 250,000 Iraqis not confronted, put up their hands, first toss their guns aside and put up their hands, walk down the roadway. It was a mystery to Yankee. How could that happen? Even led to many jokes. Well, who's going to be at the butt of the joke is Yankee. Gave up their nation. It's being declared again and again. It's right there on the screen. Spewing from the speakers. The computer-generated dialogue. Wake up! Get out there, revolutionary! Liberate the Confederate States of America. The Alamo, placed as the Capitol. Don't wait till it's too late. Till when they need to defend themselves without a gun. That right was placed into the Constitution in case tyranny were ever to take a hold. Has a counterbalance, an armed citizenry. Well, Yankee Sam has a solution. To further their needs, they can't have an armed citizenry. They build an underground and have an operation in mind right there. Pen to the paper. Gun confiscation, the first declaration of the crisis situation, which is due to occur when declared are the sanctuary places. First declared sanctuary cities, then the entire zone, which will be broken down into sectors. The autonomous region of California. Looks like they're going to give the Western Tunnel System for a while to Mexico. I had written, and I amend as we go when I watch the code. I can see that they don't mind if DFA holds California for a while. They will intend to regain, and that's the USDIA. And if they can't one day, well, they don't mind. They have their command center. Inside of Iron Mountain, ice skating rink, shopping center, housing units, dug into the mountain, billions and billions of dollars. Been doing it for decades, since the 90s. In this town, in 99, when it was this time, about 5:30 in the evening, began the percussions, boom, 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 boom. And they'd go on for 2-3 hours. They'd write reports in the newspaper that it was a munitions dump over near Reno, Nevada, and they were getting rid of old munitions. No, that's not what it was. They were putting the charges in the mine tunnels and mining. illegally extracting the gold. They made hundreds of millions of dollars from the gold within a couple years. And I don't know how much they made now. I know back then. Enormous amount of money. Extracted the gold through the use of leach pits. Further contaminated the river. They used the reclamation money to clean up the river to build their tunnel system. They were granted over and over again allotments of funds in the sum of $1 billion. I think it started out at $500 million. But the grant was awarded again and again. And over the years, I don't know how much they've been awarded. Billions of dollars. That's for sure. How many billions, I don't know. Can't remember. 3 or 4? Well, the toxicity, maybe even more. The toxicity didn't go down. The mine known as Iron Mountain Mine, from the tunnel entrance, ran a creek, a waterway. If left in the waterway was a shovel, the shovel would disintegrate within days, less than 2 months. That's how toxic the output, the waterway that would drain into the Sacramento River, how much toxicity the water contained. Was due to the hydraulic mining. The reclamation project is extensive. They didn't do much reclamation. They tunneled. They built an underground network. And not only with those funds, they're the U.S. DIA. They have at their access all the U.S. federal funds, because Yankee doesn't give much scrutiny for their safety. They know, they obey. They know not to rock the boat. Stay with the same usual show. Stay safe. Keep on their way. And at all times, behave. Yankee Sam's in control. They've been told. It's time to rise up, confront the U.S. government. I know I bounced around on themes there. We could go back to Phoenix, 1700s. There's a couple thousand pages written. For a while, there was almost 900 on the internet, and then all of a sudden, one moment to the next, every one of them taken off. Go ahead and void the comments mentioned about the real conspiracy forum. They're the ones that took them off. But hey, it's a private site, and they have their membership, their group, and that's what they decided to do. If anyone wants to see the pages, they're being put on day by day on a website named www.bigbossjock.com. They can go there. It's called a blog spot. I don't know much about blogging, but I know the information goes on. If they look at the posts and the blogs, well, there they are. The history. Our one only God, He helps me with this rhyme, line by line. I do give my thanks, along with gratitude, for our Father in heaven, our one only God, Allah. This is the Big Boss Jock, signing off.